Hello, James.
Hello, Eddie.
We're having some internet challenges. I just did a quick speed test. I'm at 400 meg. I think I'm pretty good here. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, here we are for the Tech Town Square. And thank goodness for the internet. I could go on about how grateful I am. TCP over IP in 1983 by DARPA, moving over to CERN in Switzerland. Fantastic. But never mind that, because we're going to have a show today talking about technology in the town square, the Tech Town Square, about how look at the plummeting ratings in news and media. Can there be a technological solution for people to get real news? People are so disenfranchised with all of the big media players. They are seeking their news from almost anywhere internet. Well, there's pros and cons there. I'm pleased we have the availability, but we're going to discuss today what other choices we might be able to give to people to give them an authentic experience into truthful news. All right, James.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome. We're going to get to your comments. People are tuning in. We're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you have not subscribed, make sure to do so right now. After the show, 9 p.m., we'll be on ClubHouse, open forum discussion. You can come on stage. We'll continue our conversation.
If you need an invite, we'll give you an invite.
Yeah, if you don't have an invite to ClubHouse, please ping us while we're here. You can DM me on LinkedIn if you're watching us, James J. Azar, or you can DM Eddie Doyle, the legend, and we'll get you an invite. All opinions on the show are our own, do not reflect any organization we are affiliated with at any point period in time. So we just want to make that clear. It also goes, the same disclaimer goes to you guys. David Muallim joining us. Good evening.
Hello, David.
Glad
to see you then. Previous guest.
Awesome. Nathan.
What's up from Nathan?
What's up, Nathan? And Jonathan says, evening all, excited to be here.
Hello, Jonathan.
So Eddie was kind enough to kick us off with the topic. News media ratings in the gutter, right?
Yeah. I've got some stats here, James. I'll give you the stats and then I'll pass it back to you, my friend.
Are you able to share them on screen? Can you pull them up on screen?
I don't get that capability on my side, no. No, but let me just read them out. And this is definitely Googleable. In fact, look up 25 to 54-year-old demographic viewers and total viewers of Fox, MSNBC, and CNN. As of Sunday, May the 23rd of this year, 2021, what they're getting is they get at prime time. I'll just give you the prime time numbers. We're seeing in the lead Fox at 124,000 people who are in the 25-year-old demographic and 1.2 million people in the 54-year-old. MSNBC is 49,000 and 400,000. CNN is 78,000 and 478,000. So I listen to Joe Rogan, a podcast, a lot. I listen to Ben Shapiro, a podcast, a lot. Yeah. And they get millions, tens of millions. Rogan reaches 1 billion people a year. And he'd be the first to admit that he's a knuckle-dragging cage-fighting commentator and a stand-up comic. He's brilliant. He's a what I find, very truthful dialogue that he has. Listening to one right now as an example with Brett Weinstein, a evolutionary biologist that is being banned from YouTube because he is debating the origins of the COVID virus, which is necessary for our First Amendment, right? Debate to figure out what
necessary. Debate is necessary for humans in general. Where there's a lack of debate, there's tyranny, right?
Right. And so they're taking that away from us in the name of freedom. It's a very strange, bizarre thing. Anyway, we've crapped on big tech enough on this show. Let's pull it back, James. Otherwise, we'll start a UN problem here.
Yeah, we don't want to start the UN or NATO problem. We'll take that there.
Right. So 124,000 with Fox, 78,000 with CNN, and 49,000 with MSNBC. They cannot financially survive on these numbers. Right? Advertisers are flocking to YouTube and to all of the streaming services. So
they're flocking to podcasters, which, by the way, here's the podcast if you guys want to advertise on. You guys can come and talk to us about it. Right?
Let's get into some comments here, man, in a second, and then we'll carry on.
So Nathan says you've got a classy shirt.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Always. Thank you. This was a Father's Day gift.
Tom on YouTube says you guys are absolutely great. Thank you for tuning in, Tom.
Thank you. Great, Tom.
Nathan says maybe the people are catching on to rubbish the traditional news sources have become in the past 10 years. We're going to get to that in just a moment, but not on the fact that they're rubbish, but on something else. Brian says, good riddance to bad rubbish.
Yeah. But on the way out the door, they're doing a lot of damage. I want to get back to that point, James. Please remind me. Okay, who's this?
So Nathan here, the following two comments. People can tell what is real and genuine. Love Brett and Joe.
Fantastic.
They're also banned for talking about the efficiency of ivermectin, according to good old Brian.
Okay.
And I know there's something wrong with the news if their anchors like CBS and Fox are taking recordings to Project Veritas.
Right.
Yes.
That was interesting, wasn't it?
Dude, Project Veritas. James O'Keefe had a birthday this week, so happy birthday to James O'Keefe.
Nice. Happy birthday, O'Keefe.
He is killing it, man.
Yeah.
He's bringing back investigative journalism. He's got so many deep throats, hence going to, Watergate, and he's just crushing the media. But I don't want to. We're not taking a crap on media here. I want to be something very clear. Here's two things about today's show and what we want to discuss. One, there's an awesome technology that a lot of us use called blockchain. Blockchain has something called smart contracts. And smart contracts, for those who don't know, I will read you the Wikipedia definition of it. A smart contract is a computer program or a transaction protocol which is intended to automatically execute, control, or document legally relevant events and or actions according to the terms of a contract or an agreement. So in my fantasy world, here's where I'm going. Anyone.
Okay, I'm not hearing you, James, so I just don't know if everybody else is also... send me some signals in the comments, because I can see the comments, but James... Sorry, buddy, you were totally frozen there we go. For about 10 seconds. Keep going.
Yeah, there we go. We're back. I know I'm watching the feed right here. We're having a little internet challenges tonight. Eddie.
All right, yeah, and the feed, of course, wouldn't come because it would be on your, on your side. Okay, no worries. Ladies and gentlemen, let us continue, though, because what James and I were discussing earlier this week is exactly what he was saying there about blockchain. How can we introduce immediate conversation into a medium that would allow the same sort of reputational strength as blockchain, as in being on the ledger forever, being verified as truth? Now, in my very simpleton mind and simplistic view, right, I've been minting an entire coin for the last 15 years, so there's my experience. What the servers are doing is reaching the same conclusion of an algorithm, a complex algorithm. And when they all reach that conclusion together, they say, yes, this is verifiable. And then it enters into the ledger, into the blockchain forever. Now, it's taking my mind a little bit of difficulty to get around the fact that how do we move that into the conversation so that, because you see these media companies, and this gets me to the point that I think Nathan might have made, sorry if it was somebody else, is on their way out the door, they're doing a lot of damage because of the clickbait headlines, right? And so to survive on 50,000 viewers in prime time, you're never going to do it. So you're going to have to start. And look, here's what's super interesting is the viewership's gone down since they've had nothing to talk about. And they've had nothing to talk about since the White House changed hands, right? So
well, there's plenty to talk about. They just don't want to talk about it. It's not like they don't have anything to talk about. There's plenty to talk about.
It's just not that exciting for them, I suppose. Yeah,
it just doesn't fit their narrative. Let's not say Orange Man bad, but they don't have anything to talk about. We've got a guy who's, according to the rest of the world, has mental health issues. I don't know if you saw him with the president of Israel, who's the same age as him. That guy was functioning without notes, and he wasn't.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Simple.
Okay, so how do we let's get to some comments on the blockchain here, because I think we're going to find some gems. All right, why don't we start there, and then I want to get back to how we might be able to solve this kind of problem.
So I want to just finish where I cut out, okay? So smart contract is a computer program or transaction protocol which is intended to automatically execute, control, or document legally relevant events and actions according to the terms of a contract or an agreement. I take this at value of, what if we could make a smart contract between news organizations and their audience, or politicians and their voting bloc, that says, you vote for me, I promise to execute on that. This is the smart contract, and if I'm in violation, then then there are penalties to that aspect of it. Because one of the biggest challenges we've got right now is the idea that there's no common truth.
Right. This is a real problem. There's an old Russian or old KGB proverb which says, when nothing is real, anything is possible. This is a problem.
So,
right. The internet broke up. Thank you for letting us know.
Sorry about that, Lynn. I am taking care of that. Who are Tucker Carlson or Anderson Cooper? Millionaires who are messaging your mind with messages, brought to you by billionaire sponsors.
Very well put. Yes.
Freezing in Atlanta is quite a feat. Yeah. I am having some issues. It is we have a storm going through here at the moment. So
okay. Oh yes, and I should have said at the beginning of the program, I had no power for 3 hours today. It's 99 degrees in New Jersey. Aren't we having fun? If you detonate an EMP above the United States, I think it's close to the stratosphere, with a nuclear thermal blast, you can get rid of all the electricity. So there's a fun fact that had nothing to do with anything except that I wanted to say it.
Well, you'd get rid of all traditional electricity. Brian Kane, on the other hand, would be just fine where he's at.
Remind me why? Oh, yeah, because he's there. Yeah, he's off grid. Oh, my goodness, James, you've frozen again. I could be very well talking into a camera lens, but of course, I think it might be going through. I don't know if the people can hear me because this goes through James's software. So if you can hear me, please type into the comments. Okay, I'm going to type it.
There we go. There we go. We're back. Give me just a moment here. We are taking care of some network issues.
All right. I see people are still commenting. Thank you. So David's saying, to Eddie's point, where do you go if there is absolutely no truth? Right. So here's what I was going to suggest. Okay. You know how we do our presidential elections? It's so stupid because we have some entertainer asking questions. Nobody fact checks. So these people can say anything they want up there, and nobody in real time is going to say, hey, you're lying, which the majority of them do. So if they knew they were going to get fact checked immediately, let's say they were the guest on Rogan or Shapiro's show, right? Well, there'll be somebody typing. You got Jamie, young Jamie, typing real fast in the background, and he'll be able to tell. I don't know if you're frozen again, buddy. He'll be able.
I'm here.
Be good. He'll be able to tell immediately if somebody's lying. Well, you would have a completely different debate forum. So, when it comes to blockchain, how can we hold people to a standard of truth using that technology? Right? Is it possible to push everything through like some kind of verifiable algorithm when they're going to tweet or text or say something? I don't know.
So David Brin has a very interesting comment here. So we're not using blockchain to verify and prove what's being reported, etc., as much as we are ensuring accountability in the space and ensuring consequences. Who is the enforcement? Is that automatic within the blockchain as a triggerable switch? Well, that's the beauty of it. We can define it, I think, any way possible, right? We can define what consequences are when violating something of that nature per se. Blockchain to me is more of the idea of the masses, meaning if you're an authenticated user on the blockchain, you're part of the mass, which at that point you can create a level of real fact checkers to the idea of what truth is. Because the truth today is very mixed. Like if you watch MSNBC, you get a version of something. If you watch Fox, you get a version of something else. If you watch CNN, you get garbage, right? Like CBS and ABC are, I don't know what they are at this point. I don't know.
It's not news. It's some kind of entertainment. Yeah. But you see, the thing is, Brian put not possible. I'm inclined to agree, because what's the difference between what we're trying to figure out and having a young Jamie just fact check everybody real fast on his fingers, right? What's the difference? I suppose the difference, actually, I'm answering my own question immediately. I suppose the difference is this. If when you are doing these Google searches or DuckDuckGo or Bing searches and you don't get verifiable truth back because it's people's opinions, like all the censorship that's going on. I keep coming back to the censorship because it's so bad. Right, to ban a evolutionary biologist who has no stake in the game, just wants to figure out an answer to the COVID issues on where it came from and how we can treat it better, and that person is banned from YouTube and Twitter because he's questioning the CDC and the WHO. He's not even saying he has a different opinion. He's just questioning it. At that point, the person, the young Jamie who's fact checking, there's a possibility for them to not fact check accurately without blockchain. So that's where it lives. As far as what people can tweet and say and do, I don't see how we can throw that into a blockchain to stop them from saying lies.
So a few things, and let me push back a little bit on that. We use blockchain today, and blockchain is being used more and more on the idea of verifying financial transactions, right? So we can verify what a transaction is. And, for a lot of people, that transaction is essentially a contract, like any transaction, whether there's a signed contract or not. If Eddie and I make a deal right now and I agree to give Eddie $20, that's a contract, whether it's written or not. We've executed an agreement, right? Meaning we've made a transaction that's a line in the ledger, right? But the same thing applies when it comes to stories. So if we look at stories that come out, right, there's an inherent middle ground to the truth, right? Like the best way I heard this when I was getting ready for today's episode is listening to a judge in a criminal court. So if you ever listen to a retired judge in a criminal court or in any big case who's made any ruling, and you ask him, over 30 years, how do you make your ruling? He goes, well, there's the prosecution and they're going to try to create a narrative. And he goes, there's the defense and they've got another narrative. And he goes, somewhere in the middle, there exists the truth. And that truth is what I'm trying to find, right? And he goes, so to get to that truth, you listen and you're able to weigh in on what's correct and what's not. Now, you talked about the idea of censorship and Brett Weinstein getting censored right on YouTube. Well, Andy Ngo had his podcast pulled from SoundCloud for no reason. Right?
Wow.
So we're seeing the idea that this look, establishment media, the CNN, the NBCs, they're in bed with Facebook and they're in bed with Twitter. Right? Because they get 10 times the views on their pages on Twitter and on Facebook than they do through their cable news channel.
And if they're going to survive, they're going to have to focus on the digital because cable news is dying. It's just dying a death. And they're holding on as much as possible.
That's why the censorship exists.
Right.
And I think that's where we're trying to go. Right. And that's why I think blockchain might be a solution for this. So today, the internet allowed anyone to be a journalist, a reporter, a blogger, right? Look at Tim Pool. If you guys don't know who Tim Pool is, Tim Pool was just a blogger who went out to occupy. There went to a bunch of other, and then from there he went to a bunch of other news channels, and now he's got his own YouTube channel with millions of followers. He's got 3 YouTube channels. Every single one's got at least 1 million people watching it, right?
Right. So that's one person. That's right.
Right. Collectively, he's got 3 million people watching him, which based on the numbers you read is 10 times more than Fox.
And it cost them so much to host that all that infrastructure. And Tim Pool's in his basement and out in the field. Interesting, right? With just a cell phone
let's
camera.
get to some comments because we can get on a soapbox here pretty quickly, and we've got some great comments coming through. This one from Brian: we need to educate people to be accountable for what information they are soaking. The hell with the fact checkers. Be your own fact checker. If it isn't important enough for you to fact check on your own, then you really don't have a place of expressing your opinion about such things. Brian, while fundamentally you are correct, you are practically incorrect, sir. People are lazy. People don't want to fact check. People rely on fact checkers. In fact, most fact checkers ruled the COVID lab theory as completely false, are now coming around and going, well, maybe we got that one wrong.
Well,
hang on, folks.
Even worse than that, you get Fauci's emails exposed and you find out that he's been lying this whole time. So Yeah, you're right in principle, Brian, but unfortunately, you're going to have to do the work for the lazy people that won't do that, right?
Correct.
Okay,
So
who's saying this?
this is Nathan. Go ahead.
Okay, so Nathan's saying, so blockchain, the contract, that is a tight lid. Now, all the pressure is on at least one side of the contract. It will create another imbalance. It will not be a good problem solver. A disruption, yes.
But that's the point. The traditional news media have been disrupted by people like us, Eddie, right? Creating a podcast, creating a show, going on social media, attracting people to watch, right? And Joe Rogan has done that.
But here's an interesting observation.
The Young Turks have done that.
Totally. So here's an interesting observation. Rogan's conversations have gone from 1 to 3 hours. They're all 3 hours long now. 3 hours. It's what Kevin Costner said is the long form when he was on Tim Ferriss's podcast in the very early days before anybody had even heard of podcasting. And so who's the kind of clientele that's going to sit through a 3-hour conversation? To, I think it was Brian's point earlier, the people that want to know, get the facts. Because you can't get news about an international pandemic in a 30-second sound bite that is repeated over and over again. So the way that the TikTok infrastructure world is set up will not deliver truth to people. And the people that are listening to, and although it's 1 billion people a year, so there are enough of us certainly who are listening to the long form, I think still most people don't do that, right? So yeah. We still got a problem in how to educate the masses. So Brian's saying, tie it to the blue check mark.
David is saying.
Sorry, David's saying, tie it to the blue check mark. In order to post it, has to go through the filter. If you know what's true, blue check mark from Twitter. Yeah, you don't have an issue posting through the filter. If you post without verification, mark it as such. So that's the problem with who kind of agree, but who gets to do the marking, right? That's always the problem. This is what Alexander Solzhenitsyn was so good about identifying in his Gulag Archipelago against the communist regime, is the people who get to decide what the rules are not the people you want deciding who the rules are, right?
So you take that through what Brian is saying here, and I want to get to the other comments because there's so many good ones. So look at it like this. Blue check marks are only verified by Twitter. Now, here's something very interesting. You want to become a journalist today? Get 20 to 30,000 followers on Twitter, and you can become a journalist for the New York Times or the Wall Post, or or any of those, crappy, because they want your followers. They know that if you post something, if you write something and you post it, and you tweet it out, they're going to get all those clicks, all those views, all those retweets, and that's more powerful than their own pages. Right? So it's almost like you've become your personal brand, and your personal brand is what's going to get you inside of that. So the blue check marks, David, mean nothing at all, because all the blue check marks are arbitrary blue check marks from Twitter. They have no relation if at all.
But I think he's saying kind of like that. So not specifically the Twitter ones, but anyway, yeah, it's an interesting point, but who gets to decide? We're trying to get the blockchain to do it as verifiable truth. It's a tough one. But Brian's saying, is that a copyright? What is that symbol before there? Let's hear your opinion on the safety of blockchain against the impending quantum hammer. I don't know what the impending quantum hammer is.
It's going to be very interesting with quantum computing, but we'll see. I don't want to get into the security aspect of blockchain. I just want to talk in general about the tech, Brian. But that's a great discussion we can have for another.
On your CISO show, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, good man.
Let's move on to this one. I believe this is Nathan.
Okay.
Yes, Nathan.
Who will be able to execute the blockchain transaction? Right. This is the who thing I was talking about earlier. How much will it cost? Is it just a corporate luxury, or is it available to everyone for free? Certainly it should be available to everyone. I don't know about free. There is always a way to make these things yes or no for free. And definitely not a corporate luxury. As far as minting in the blockchain, it doesn't cost that much. I mean, yes, there's an environmental impact we're hearing about a lot lately, but I think the benefit of blockchain's technology and things like syndicated loans is going to far outweigh, the detriment that it's bringing. And look, we're getting better and better and better all the time with electric. So there's hopefully a balancing to be had there. Aside from that potential downfall, the cost is fairly immaterial to mint things into the blockchain. It's just a question of how do we hold so-called journalists accountable using this technology. And I still just can't wrap my head around how it's going to happen. But I think most people here are saying it's likely not possible. Let's keep going on the comments. These are great.
So good evening, gents, from the awesome James McQuiggan. David Hurley says they actually censored the creator of the underlying mRNA technology for the COVID vaccines. The platforms media doing that have no limits on keeping information to deem against the prevailing orthodoxy if they can do that.
Right.
Absolutely,
David.
100% true, David. But that's why a blockchain would allow someone like that to get weighted more. Because let's say, for example, I'm a financial reporter, right? So the blockchain would rank me higher. My trust meter by my readers would be higher. So my source, whatever I'm talking about.
Do you know what we're really saying here, James, is we are looking for transparency. Right, so take Fauci. So he's my latest punching bag. Just because of the emails, right? Because the emails that were leaked, because he's clearly a political player. And then look at the WHO not even wanting to say Taiwan to that one reporter, right? During that one interview, and they went off air and came back. They refused to say it because they're kowtowing to China, who doesn't recognize Taiwan as a country, as independent. So if you are in public office, we are essentially saying we want transparency. Can blockchain do it? How about this? Those leaked emails, why weren't they open to the public? I mean, I'm not saying that it entirely should be, because maybe there's reason to not cause panic or whatever. He lied and said, you don't need masks because he wanted all of the first responders to have masks. I still think the truth would have been better, but I do understand the motivation for the lie in that particular case, right? Truth is just better. But so instead of having a blockchain, why don't we just have complete transparency with the people who we elect?
A great question, and one that I can't imagine getting an answer to. We're going to get to some comments here, guys, real quick. Could everyone imagine 3 hours of James and Eddie? Yes, we could, and that would be a really fun show if we had the bandwidth for it. Right. So how many 9-to-5 employees are listening to 3 hours? A lot. And
breakfast every day for me. Yeah. I mean, I don't get through 3 hours a day. I can't keep up with the amount that they do, I must admit. But I over breakfast every single morning. That's how I get my kind of, not news.
So
I scan the headline.
I listen to Joe when I'm driving. So anywhere I go, I'm driving, I pop in Rogan. If I'm working, and like the Quentin Tarantino interview to me was one I wanted to listen to. So I had it playing in the background while I was working. But that's about it. I think a lot of people do that too, by the way. Who Can Afford Thinking Hats? That is by Nathan. Brian Parker's joining us from Australia. Good to see you.
Hello, Brian.
Matthew Bunn says the blue check marks are those deemed to be a friend of or part of the cathedral. That is 100%.
That's what I call a Mark Twain sentence. So well done, Matthew, because Mark Twain was able to pack an encyclopedia into a sentence, right? He was great with that. That's a very good sentence. I shall use that.
You can become a journalist for those outlets as long as you keep in line with what agreed mainstream media narrative is. Yes, and we're seeing that with Project Veritas, right? All these reporters that are coming out and saying, we weren't allowed to do this, or we had this talking point and they wouldn't let us do it. Or you're seeing kind of like the editors and the inherent challenges that are coming through them are absolutely unbelievable. Spot on. James McQuiggan says, quantum computing, talk to Roger Grimes. Yes, Roger Grimes is unbelievable. David says, better not to affiliate with the tech companies as you've seen them demonetize you if contrary to their views.
Unfortunately, people are getting bullied. Yeah. Which is the same at work. And guess what? The only way to deal with the bully is to stand up to the bully. I mean, we really have to do this, especially with, this will get me in trouble, HR departments. It's like, okay, thought police, the end of it, we need to end this now, right? We can't be saying, and this is the old British system, this is the system I still got away from, and that you, my dear American friends, got away from a couple of 100 years ago. The British system, you can accuse somebody of a crime and they have to prove they are innocent.
Yeah.
The American system, I am innocent. You have to prove that I am guilty. That change in judicial understanding and law is frankly the pivotal moment for creating this incredible social experiment called the United States of America. It really is. It's saying the individual has a right to their kingdom and we leave them the hell alone. And if they are doing something wrong, it is for the state or another person to prove that they're doing something wrong. The cancel culture right now, and we have this also in big corporate environments, has this strange thought police that comes around and says, you know, based on your either ethnicity, gender, or based on, you know, just the way the winds prevail, we think that was an offensive word. And you can be in trouble. There was a lady in Scotland who actually got prosecuted for her tweets now under the hate crime law. That actually happened just like 2 weeks ago.
Europe is really cracking down on free speech. We know that in Germany they've got some really strict laws, and we know that there are some people in the U.S. that are sitting in Congress and Senate that are looking at the European speech laws and going like, well, what did the founding fathers really mean about free speech? Right? And kind of want to bring that tyranny here. We'll get to some more comments. David Brin said, so sorry, in the spirit of it, yes, if we want to use blockchain to create a contract or agreement of truth, who's the uninterested middleman acting as information broker upholding that agreement? All of this is going to be impossible without an agreed upon central authority. It's kind of like the same central role Facebook should be playing, but fails to do so in social media. So Facebook's between a rock and a hard place. And I'm not, you guys all watched the show, and if it's your first time here, you've never heard me defend Facebook. But here's a little defense to Facebook. Facebook's between a rock and a hard place. Facebook on one end needs to be loyal to the people who spend money on Facebook, aka their advertisers, the people who sponsor stuff like CNN, MSNBC,
and lots of individual corporations. Right. That's right.
And those corporations create within the Facebook advertising marketplace more of a syndicate, meaning BMW wants to advertise on CNN commercials because of X or Y or whatever that is. So we see that. I think the middleman is the people, David. I think we are the middleman. In the blockchain, the information broker are the people. Take it as like a Reddit story, right? People upvote or downvote it.
Right.
So if you create a list of people, right, and these people are all kind of like a jury of your peers, and the journalists essentially rotate between a bunch of trenches of these juries, and you don't see who the writer is, meaning you don't see the name. You read the context, you either upvote it, downvote it. If you agree with the truth of it, then that kind of we become the information brokers and the upholders.
That's how it was supposed to be. That's how it was supposed to be, right?
A bunch of garbage, they're going to get downvoted and out. Yeah. And then the platform just kicks them off automatically. We'll get to more comments here too. Brian Kane says, I would love to get your opinion on blockchain and how it would hold up against the impending quantum computer. We'll get to that on a different show. Brian, I promise. Are we still allowed to say Mark Twain on YouTube? I'm not sure. We need to ask
that over and over again.
Overlords.
Yeah, and here's my point about this nonsense. The reason why the works of William Shakespeare have survived so long is because they merited its survival, right? Meritocracy, all the garbage falls by the wayside. So yeah, it's a political move to get Mark Twain out of the classroom. So I'll be saying Mark Twain till I die. All right, who's this?
This is Nathan. Go ahead, Eddie.
All right, fantastic, Nathan. Thank you. So humanity has reached a point in the evolution where in place of best education and investment in human resources, we're in place of, yes, we are opting for a technological band-aid. Right, yeah, well said. Thank you, Nathan. But our behavior and health is a straightforward, what is that? Hit up, downhill slalom. How is blockchain going to work at the bottom of the hill? Yeah, so I'm almost as pessimistic as me. Because blockchain will be great for the courts and prisons. Well, yeah, I mean, so what we're saying is, though, how do we make how do we push transparency so we don't end up using it for the courts and prisons? I mean, courts, yes, but But we get it. But I think people will be fearful of it once if these presidential candidates during these theatrical debates that we have knew that they were being fact-checked in real time, you think they would go ahead and commit their crime or their sin? No, I don't think they would.
Yeah, they would. Right? You know why they would?
If you were being fact-checked in real time, it's like, hey,
it doesn't matter because it's the truth. So here's what Trump did so well. Anytime someone fact-checked Trump and they were right, what did he say? It's the fake news media. They're taking me out of context. They're only giving you a 20-second clip of a 2-minute conversation, and it's false. There are people who legitimately in 2021 still think the earth is flat. There are people who legitimately in 2021 don't believe that aliens exist, even though now we've got like undisputed facts to the fact that there are other advanced life forms in our galaxy.
For me, it's just obvious from a probabilities perspective as opposed to a factual perspective on that one. But even that, and that's the point, is to be able to have a conversation to say, I think this could probably be true. That actually is a good thing. There's a lot of merit.
We're talking about the probability of truth rather than the idea of what is truth, right? So one of the biggest challenges we have today, one of the biggest, when you talk to people anywhere, right, and you look at it, there's there are different versions of truth. So there's a version of truth when it comes to economics for the middle class person. There's a version of truth for economics when it comes to a lower person.
Give me an example. I don't think there is. I think it's more absolute than that. So why would there be a different? Because we're not talking about opinion. We're talking about fundamental truths. So Shapiro is really good at this, right? He talks about if you want to get out of poverty, there's a few simple things you need to do. One, he talks about graduating high school. He's absolutely
don't have kids out of wedlock,
right? So graduating high school, it's like duh. But guess what? People who are in the have-not category, for the most part, have also, not all, don't anecdote me with, I know my uncle's friend, right? Oftentimes, more often than not, don't have a strong education. So guess what? Favoring education for your children. Look, I'll give you this very quick story. I used to be an English teacher, right? Many, many years ago. And I remember trying to get the kids, and at this point, I was in an elementary school, and I was trying to get the kids just interested in reading, like learn to love reading. Like Harry Potter did it for my daughter, right? She fell in love with reading and became a ferocious reader. You can't become a ferocious reader without falling in love with it. I had these two little cute twins, these little girls. And so we're talking like, I don't know, 7 years old, something like that. And so I like, go home, everybody, and get your favorite thing to read. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be a magazine, newspaper, book. It could be a brochure for all I care. Get your favorite thing. These two little twins came and they didn't have anything. And at first I was kind of scolding them. I'm like, hey, you didn't, listen to the teacher and obey the assignment. They don't have anything to read in their house. Like I said, nothing? Like not a magazine, not a nothing. Like, no, nothing. Oh, well, guess what? It's going to be really rough for you two. Yeah, because we have the truth. The truth is you need to value education. That's the truth we're talking about. And I don't think that changes from middle class to working class.
David Vaughn says, Eddie, you are guilty of fashion crimes.
I'm pleased about that. But yes, this lovely Father's Day shirt. I wasn't sure on the floral design. I like it a little louder. The guy that wears paisley says.
Matt is
we'll take any time, Matt.
A bit late, but better late than never. David Vaughn says, what if bad HR and proved your innocence trained get locked in with blockchain? I don't know what you mean.
What if bad HR and proved your? What if bad HR proved your innocence and you got it locked in with? Well, I think what you mean is this is what James and I were trying to get at. Who said that, by the way, James?
This is Nathan.
So Nathan, yes, I think this is actually what James and I were discussing Monday in our prep call. We were saying, how do we do that actual thing? How do we make sure that blockchain proves the innocence or guilt or facts of a statement? Okay. What else have we got? Yep. What if the? Oh yeah, we can move on. Okay.
Even where this is David Vaughn. Even where freedom of speech exists, you can still be charged for insightful speeches and/or gestures.
Right.
Yes, but in freedom of speech, insightful speech is very different than in Germany and in Europe, where insightful speech could be saying Angela Merkel's. I remember when I was in Russia, I grabbed a picture of Putin at the supermarket. They were selling pictures of Putin and Medvedev, and I hugged the picture and I put my other finger up Putin's nose in the photo. And the security guards got super pissed at me, but obviously I made it out of the gulag.
Now, remember that young gentleman? I was just Googling something here because I want to get what that lady in Scotland got charged for hate crime, what her tweets were. So I'll get that in a second. But remember in North Korea, that student ripped a picture of Kim Il-jung, have I got his name right? Kim Il-jung in half. And they tortured this poor lad, university kid, and essentially killed him in timing that he would die when he got back to the United States of America. Yeah, so there's freedom of speech, right? It's like, complain all you like about the United States of America. We're not doing that, right? Okay.
So this is Nathan. He says, look at what China and Russia are doing with all of our tech now. Imagine them with a crypto muscle. Yeah, you're going to see you're going to see more of that. China is fighting Bitcoin significantly, and you're going to see more and more of it.
So it wasn't, because the media aren't going to print it, so I haven't got it. But what I've got is it was homophobic and transphobic messages on Twitter, and she's being charged with a hate crime. Now, obviously, I'm going to say right out of the gate, I think if it's true that this woman is saying homophobic and transphobic things on Twitter, then I think she's a scumbag, whatever. But I think she's a scumbag, and that's really where it should end. It should be the better narrative where, hey, look at my homosexual friends, human beings. I can't believe we actually have to have this conversation that we're even talking about gay people. I just find it so weird, right? It's just leaving the hell alone. But at any rate, it's happening. So we're having this conversation, and I would simply say that a better idea, i.e., I don't know, love, generosity, giving to people, hugging them, right? Being kind to other human beings that haven't done anything to you, that are just living their lives, is a better idea. So that better idea in the realm of free speech wins, obviously, right? This is I'm competing with an orangutan in Australia, in Scotland here, but I disagree with prosecuting her as a hate crime.
Yeah, I'm gonna support that 150%. It's
crazy. Yeah.
If that's what she said, then that's BS, and she's a scumbag. But she has the freedom of speech, of right to do that.
I've always said you want the arseholes to identify themselves. The only way to do that is to allow free speech.
Yeah, right. We've reached a point in society where stuff's a little bit more challenging. There's the people who, look at government and want government to run their life for them because they're afraid to make decisions. Yeah, and then there are people like you and me, Eddie, where we're freedom-loving people.
Yeah, and if I don't eat what I kill, if I don't kill, I don't eat, right? I'm okay with that. That's life. Yeah. What I was going to say about this woman, though, is interesting because and this is the idea that James and I are wrestling with, and thank you for wrestling with it, folks. We're going to get to your comments right after my thought here. If we can get this dialogue into the blockchain, you look at that woman and you go, oh, that's really bad. She says something transphobic and homophobic. No, actually, it's really good that it's in the blockchain because guess what? We will also see if that woman redeems herself, and she bloody should. But if it's not there forever, I think people, loose lips, right? But if they realize it's there forever and then have an opportunity to redeem themselves, hey, I'm all over second chances. Maybe not third, right? I don't have that much patience in life, but I am all over second chances. So I think that would be amazing. You see it in the blockchain. It's like, oh, there's a terrible thing. But guess what? This person, or she made a bad decision. She's carried on down this path. Fine. Let her go into hell on her own. Whatever. Who cares? All right. Comments?
The possibility of alien life are high, but the probability of it evolving simultaneously to us as humans is significantly lower. That's by Brian. Brian also
I would love to debate you and talk to you about that, Brian, when we will do aliens and technology one week. It's a great subject. All right, keep going.
This is such a damn fine show. Thank you guys for what you do.
Thanks, Brian.
For tuning in. Paul from YouTube goes, can I get a meme coin? We will. I am going to create challenge coins, FYI, just so people know.
I actually don't get that, James. Can you explain that to me? What do you mean? Meme coin, challenge coin?
I think he's talking about the North, because this came through while you were on the North Korea piece.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get that one. All right. But thank you, Paul. Thanks for dialing in, man. Would love to hear
Keep wearing your
comments.
Father's Day shirt with pride. That's from.
I got 3 of them. You'll see another one next week.
David Vaughn says insightful social media posts can't be surprising. And China's crypto muscle is gaining by the day.
Yes.
So,
yes, they're going to become a lot more efficient with a lot more people. Standing army of 1 million, right? Well, many years ago. So,
and plus they don't have any of the environmental concerns. The largest, the worst offender of greenhouse emissions is
and
China.
soon to be the world's largest navy. Yeah. With lots of places.
But remember, their navy is made in China. So it's like 3 years and then it's in the garbage, right? They just replace it at that point. David says, I read that this same concept is going to be used to verify video content and reporting with the rising incidence of deepfake tech. At the point of generating content, written or video, is it possible for blockchain to include and embed verified sources and proof of video validity? Not 100% sure on how blockchain is structured. Yeah, theoretically it can be. I'm not as familiar with the embedding technology within video, and I'm not sure how that would work from a blockchain perspective, David. It's a great point. And
wouldn't that be brilliant, though?
For people
that would be absolutely brilliant. And here's another thought that I've had on that subject matter is against policing plagiarism. Because if an author or a video creator, an artist of any kind, enters their original art and content and thought into the ledger, the blockchain, is there forever, you would never dispute, especially with music. There's lawsuits all the time with, I don't know, it sounds like ding, 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 and this band ripped me off because theirs goes ding, ding, dong, and you're like, really? But there's lawsuits on this kind of stuff. So if that was in the blockchain from the beginning, hey, you'd always knew who you had to pay a royalty to.
Correct. Paul says, wow, talk about the obvious. I believe we're talking about aliens at that point. I hate when people say, well, at least we aren't North Korea in response to the slight infraction on freedom of speech by the government. You give them an inch and they will take a mile. And by the way, Matthew, we saw that with COVID. Yeah. You gave Como an inch and that man killed
because miles corrupts people.
Yeah.
With you, man.
David Vaughn, didn't they just gut themselves into crypto farms to shut some down? Yes, they did. Yes, they absolutely did. But there's a bigger plan in China. Nothing is ever done on a whim. I think China wants to take over a lot of the crypto farms so that people have to do crypto through China. It's crazy. So I believe Paul is saying plenty in England, super scared. Mate 33, I believe he's talking about aliens. Like there's a lot of aliens in England.
All right, we're going to do a whole topic on this because I've got some strange, and I will push back on the yes, there's definitely aliens dialogue. We'll do one. We're going to bring tech into it.
In realm of cybersecurity, is it human behavior that rules? And this is coming from, let me just make sure I know who I'm reading from. In the realm of cybersecurity, Nathan. In the realm of cybersecurity, it is human behavior that rules the industry, not the tech, and not those who are experts in preventative or protective expertise. Blockchain is a technological instrument, but it will not address human behavior. You're wrong, Nathan. We know from the Social Dilemma that social media networks program human behavior through algorithms and AI. We know that
it was what I was saying earlier about if people knew the stuff that they said. Now I know you gave us the Trump example. That is really on the edge of the bell curve. I mean, he was a real anomaly, that guy. But unfortunately, people are going to try and become like him, right? He sort of set an example of you can bullshit.
But you're seeing that. You see like AOC talk about like there's no rise in crime in New York. Everything is fine. And you're like, yo, lady, look at the stats. The stats don't lie. You're a liar, but the stats don't lie.
And in a certain sense,
she's trying to create a truth that does not exist.
Yeah. And in a certain sense, these platforms like Twitter have given us a mechanism by which we can fact check what people have said in the past until they delete it, of course, but oftentimes they don't in time. So that's kind of good. I mean, now I'm kind of mystified as to why it hasn't worked in that manner. I think because the Twitter employees and the Google employees are policing their system and they favor the AOCs, right, in life.
They favor AOC because AOC spews a bunch of stuff that makes no sense to any human. the people who follow AOC. All right. Lynn says, excellent conversations. China has their own digital yuan, which they want for full control. Let's get real. Yes, they do. China already manipulates its own currency, but having a digital currency and allowing anyone all over the world to trade on a currency that's stable, meaning if China can promise you that you're not going to have all the ups and downs, more and more companies are going to want to trade on the digital yuan. More and more people are going to want to do those kinds of trade. And they control that, unlike the US dollar, which they have no control over, which they've been trying for years to get contracts outside of US dollars. And now, thanks to inflation, that plan is probably going to become successful because there's inflation's, the dollar is worth nothing today. And it's going to be worth less in about a year. So, hang tight, folks. It's about to get bumpy. All right. David says, the concern with smart contracts is their susceptibility to being compromised if they can be exploited. How much reliance can we put on them when the goal is for the truth? So go ahead, Eddie.
Well, I thought the whole point here with smart contracts is they are not susceptible to being compromised.
So some are, just depends on the kind of blockchain you build them on, right? There's all different, there's public, private, and so forth. I believe that truth should be a public blockchain that people go to, and that every user is essentially given a trust score based on, something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what we're looking for, exactly. Let's just keep putting through a few comments here. Yeah.
But honestly, the Chinese Navy, go ahead.
No worries. The only thing the Chinese Navy has left to do is to find a way to buy Israel.
China bought in Israel. They bought Israel's largest dairy provider, a company by the name of Tnuva, Tnuva. They bought it for billions of dollars, and no one understood why. But Tnuva had specific technology that helped it mass produce all different types of dairy products. And China, in order to feed 1.4 billion people, needs to get dairy on people's menu. And so they bought the company for the technology. It's absolutely unbelievable. It's very, very fascinating, that purchase, and something that I think people should be paying attention to. China bought that company for a bunch of reasons, but the main one was technology, food security. All
right.
Go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, so Matt's saying, and you could have weird things to prove the person never accessed the original content, and perhaps give a blockchain argument that they were not influenced by the original art. Yes, and you could have the things to prove that the person would never access the original contents, and perhaps give a blockchain argument that they were not influenced by the original art. I think that was on my comment of policing plagiarism, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
You're saying that, by the way, with EC Council in the cyber industry, right? The plagiarism, that EC Council is flooded with plagiarism stuff right now.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. I didn't know that. Yeah. So I'm wondering if it can solve that problem. I don't see why it can't, actually. It's just building the portal for it. It'd be very interesting.
Indeed. Matt says everything is subject to compromise, period.
See Snowden coming out.
Better. So let's see this next comment here. This is by Nathan. In our negotiations are sex, food, and shelter, so we will do whatever to get at least one of those. Social media made us behave bad, so I assume that after 10 years of blockchain, we're all just going to be angels. No, human behavior has always been bad. I'm not saying that blockchain is going to solve and make us all fair and decent human beings, but I believe that in order to solve some of the current challenges, we need to find a common truth, which is something that doesn't exist, meaning one side is speaking one language, the other side is speaking another. And when we don't speak the same language, there's no middle. There's only thing that's happening is going to be war, and it's going to be conflict, and it's going to be division. And so the idea of unifying truth is finding a bridge.
And it's actually not quite as granular as that. Right? I'm not looking at this as to solve all our kind of problems, but the big problems. So, there's an attempt to rewrite the history of the United States at the moment, right? So, you know me, I'm such an excited guest to your country. So I'm very excited. Can't wait to get my citizenship, these kinds of things, right? So I'm excited about what is the United States of America. And what I'm saying is, to dig up our ancestors and judge them on today's understanding of life is a mistake. And we shouldn't be able to simply rewrite and start hating on, people and things. And I think the pendulum has swung so far where we'll throw out the amazing work of great scientists because of some foolish comment they made when they were drunk. But this kind of nonsense has to end. So this is where I'm trying to fit in a verifiable truth, because when we don't have verifiable truth, we get back to that old KGB saying, right? Where nothing is true, anything is possible. And so right now, the narrative in media is so ludicrously inaccurate. And yet the few people, but there are still a few, right? 100,000 people watching it, are influenced by this narrative. And it's completely inaccurate. It's a real shame. So I'm trying to solve those big problems. Yeah. I
will go with that. China bought, Nathan says, China bought the port in Haifa in 2020. No, they did not. That port sale was revoked by Netanyahu on national security purposes. That was a deal that was done in 2015. That was held through for national security reviews. It was approved in 2018. Then the Trump administration pressured Israel, and a negotiation was taking place. We recognized the Golan Heights as being sovereign Israeli territory, and Israel didn't revoked the sale of the port to China on national security. That's really what happened. So no, China leases the port, but it did not buy it. They were instead of getting 50% ownership in the port, they were given a lease in the port for their ships. That was that. David says China has been buying a number of seaports, something to be concerned about. Yes, especially in Africa.
Yeah, we've spoken about that a bit. Exactly. They're building islands. They've got a lot of deep sea ports. They'll have the largest navy soon.
Yeah. Again, the Navy is made in China. I just want to clarify that. Like all things made in China, nothing ever lasts. And
there's the soldier coming out, man.
I know everyone's talking about that, but we'll get to that in just a moment. David Bren here. As awful as this might sound, but the free market that allows so many participants in any niche industry, news outlets, blockchain service, and so forth. But the competition creates this issue to begin with. Zero centralization means no ability.
Oh, you're broken up for me there, James. So if, ladies and gentlemen, you are hearing me, I'll continue with the thought. You might be coming back, James. Sorry if you didn't.
Yeah, everyone can still hear us, even though the cameras did a little reset there. I apologize.
Okay,
but we're about to move to ClubHouse in just a few minutes, folks.
Right.
So we shouldn't have these issues there. But yes, centralization in general is bad. Decentralization is the way to do it. But you want to do decentralization with transparency. So the idea is that I can decentralize something, put it out there, but that other people would be able to see it and trust it. That was the point of blockchain in its inception for financial transactions, but now you can translate it across so many things. So why not for truth is my argument.
Mm-hmm. Right. This is the conversation we wanted to have today. Exactly. Good to know. Thanks for clarifying, James, on the Israel port there in Haifa to the Chinese. Yeah. And I think we've got one more, and it is 9 o'clock. We're going to switch over to ClubHouse. Again, if you need a ClubHouse pass, direct message us, and we will give you a pass. You can get into the ClubHouse, and we'll continue the conversation over the phone. And our last comment from Paul is, I blame Cameroon. Was I going to say Cameroon? No, Cameron.
Cameron. I think he's blaming Cameron.
Cameron? Which Cameron are we talking
about?
David
Cameron, the former prime minister of the UK.
Sure. Okay.
I think the guy who ultimately cries more than he does anything else, right? I mean, wasn't David Cameron like at some point crying? But yeah, I mean, you really, if you want to blame it on someone, you got to blame it on Tony Blair. Tony Blair started it all. You can't let Tony Blair get away with it. But
yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your comments. I'm super grateful. This is always very cool. I'm always learning more. I learn so much in these 1 hour intensive sessions. It's absolutely fantastic. Apologies for the technical glitches. That is the internet for you at some times, but it's still a very cool thing because we are brought to you today via the internet. We'd love to continue the conversation afterwards in ClubHouse or publicly on LinkedIn. So continue to comment, share, like, dislike, engage. We'll see you next week at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yep, folks, we'll be on Clubhouse right now. I'm about to open the room here, so make sure you go to Clubhouse, look up the Tech Town Square under the CISO Talk Club. You'll find it there. After show, come on stage. We'll continue this discussion and many more there. Until then, folks, have a great rest of the day. Cheers, and have a great night wherever you are. Cheers.